I'm your host, Pam Schmiel, the editor behind HempBeverageNews.com. Wynk launched its low-dose beverages in the regulated market around 2021, using its custom-made mobile canning system to be able to operate in multiple states. As the company evolved, it later entered the hemp beverage market and is now one of the top-selling brands. They are also in major retail outlets, including Target's next expansion of THC drinks into about 400 of its stores. Today, we're joined by Wynk CEO Angus Rittenburg, who walks us through their growth stages and how they got Wynk to where it is today. Let's welcome Angus to the show.
Where are you guys today? I know you've been in the market for about 4 years in different iterations, as we were talking about beforehand. So where do you guys stand today? I know you're one of the top sellers, in the market, which is great.
Yeah.
Hemp beverage market.
Yeah, so I can give a little bit of background on Wynk, how it came to be.
Yeah.
Our sort of progression in the category as the category's evolved. We started in 2021. At that time, you had to produce, you could only sell THC beverages through dispensaries, and you had to produce the beverages in each state that you wanted to sell. And so that presented a huge challenge for, beverage brands, because you either needed to build licensed facilities in every single state, or come up with something creative. And what we did, and this was actually the original premise of the company, was more technology. Well, what we said is, why don't we build a mobile tractor trailer with everything you need to produce beverages on it? And rather than build our own facilities and get them licensed, we'll use this tool or technology to partner with existing license holders that already have facilities in each state, are already producing cannabis products, but bring them the ability to produce beverage. So the original idea was, if we can solve this, there's an opportunity to have an effective monopoly in each state, because we're the only ones that sort of have the keys to produce beverage. And we produced this machine, and it worked. We did it very quickly. It took a couple months to design and build. And then we're like, okay, well, when we have the tool, we need something to make with it. And myself and my co-founders were not cannabis consumers prior to this. We were alcohol consumers. And then trying a variety of products in the Canadian marketplace where beverages were pretty prominent, we tried high dose, medium dose, low dose. And when we tried the low dose products, those are the ones that sort of had a light bulb moment for us. We're like, wow, these low dose beverages, low dose THC beverages are very compelling alternatives to beer or wine. And it wasn't about getting, high for cheap. This was, let's create a compelling alternative to beer or wine, something that fits into the same occasions. And then the other thing that was unique to me early on was the opportunity to provide an alcohol alternative that has no calories. It's the issue with ethanol. It always comes with calories, but with these THC beverages, you have the opportunity to do a 0-calorie beverage that has an undeniable effect.
Big plus.
Yeah. So the brand we ended up creating is called Wynk. It was called Wynk because it's this idea of seltzer with a wink of THC, just a small amount. All the beverages we have produced to date have all been 0 calorie, 0 sugar. And, in the first few years, we sold through dispensaries. So we produced in each state. We'd sell through either medical or recreational dispensaries. And it was really challenging because the consumers we're trying to reach, which were primarily the alcohol consumer, not cannabis consumer, weren't going there. And the cost to market our products and persuade an alcohol consumer to go to a dispensary is very, very high. So we struggled. We had good growth and rapid expansion, but getting the pull through that we needed to sustain the business was a real challenge. Around 2023, Minnesota sort of famously created this marketplace for hemp-derived versions of these drinks and allowed you to produce hemp-derived THC versions of Wynk, for example, out of state, ship it into the state, and sell through alcohol licensed retail. And that's where we really, really started to get validation for our original idea. That's where the sell-through really, really picked up, and very clear early indications that if you can put these low-dose THC beverages in alcohol licensed retail, they will sell. There's huge demand. provides a lot of benefits to consumers, many benefits that we didn't even anticipate. And we hear from consumers about pain management or anxiety or stress or sleep, all of these things that we don't market and make claims around, but we hear it all the time from our consumers. So it's clear that this is a good thing for consumers. Consumers want this. There's demand. From 2023 to present, we expanded our distribution into 23 states. We sell through alcohol licensed channels exclusively. So beer, wine, and spirits distributors, bars, restaurants, and liquor stores, grocery and convenience as well that have alcohol licenses. That's where our products are sold. The goal is to, keep it out of the hands of children in the same way that alcohol has done. So as we exist today, we don't sell through dispensaries unless our alcohol distributors are able to distribute there. It's primarily through, liquor stores, grocery stores, convenience stores that sell alcohol.
So what's your favorite state as far as, I guess, sales, but just maybe some other factors I wouldn't think of?
Yeah, Illinois has been a really cool market for us. It's our biggest market. It's kind of neck and neck with New Jersey. Those are two very strong markets for us. But Illinois is interesting because it has very successful on-premise scene. And so Wynk's done really, really well in Chicago, in bars and restaurants. Good sell-through, great feedback from the bars and restaurants. There's a lot of conversations about the decline of alcohol, decline of consumption overall as a result of Ozempic and these products offering them some sort of new growth category. I think as a result of the success on premise, where consumers can try the product by just buying a can and being with friends and having a good time, I think it's very helpful for growth off premise as well, because people try it, like it, and then go to their local liquor stores and buy it. Conversely, New Jersey, which is also a strong market for us, we can't sell on premise there, so we don't have this opportunity to get product to consumers through bars and restaurants. But we've been able to find ways to grow there as well. But Chicago is sort of like our model market of like, this is what good looks like. Really, really strong liquor chain sales, on premise, lots of opportunities for events and activations. It's sort of our case study in like, how can Wynk be at its best? Replicate what we did in Illinois elsewhere.
Oh, okay. So, how are they selling your product on premise? Well, I've heard from every alcohol, just person who comes from the alcohol industry, on premise is like key for trial, taste, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. How do they sell? Do they sell by the can? You just order the menu and like a soda, and you pour it into your glass or something.
Yeah, it's been fun going to Chicago. I go there for work a fair bit, and we always have sort of social outings to bars or restaurants. And more when I go there, we're not targeting bars or restaurants that have Wynk. We're just finding good ones. And you open the menu, and sure enough, their Wynk is on the menu. It's in its own section for infused drinks. It's positioned as a non-alcoholic section of the menu. And you'll see, a variety of our flavors as options. If you order it, you get a can with a glass, just like you would beer. But it's not some sort of unusual experience for the consumer, and that's what we love. It fits right into the occasion. It's not some sort of new sort of project to buy these products like it was in dispensaries, where you have to be in a waiting room for 15 minutes and show your ID and all these other things.
Yeah. Well, you coming from New Jersey, me coming from New York, we don't have that. And it just seems it's such an odd concept that I would love to be a part of.
Yeah, it's just great. Like, I'm obviously biased, but to be there for work, often on weekdays, have a day chock full of meetings the next day, to be able to go out with our team at night and still have a good time, have a drink that has an undeniable effect, but not have to worry about a hangover or lack of productivity the next day. It's just a nice option to have. I still consume alcohol, and I love alcohol.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to have alternatives when you want them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the other day went to meet a friend and she wanted to go to, an outdoor cafe to have a drink. And I was like, I really don't want to drink this week. I just want to have a THC beverage. Let's just meet in the park and I'll grab a couple beverages.
Yeah.
We had in the local park because there wasn't I didn't want to go in. I didn't want to be tempted, because I knew I would order that glass of wine. I was like, I just want to go have a THC drink, So anyway, yeah. So what is your dosing? What are your best doses,
Yeah.
milligrams?
Wink has a variety of options. It's as low as 2.5 milligrams of THC per 7.5 ounce can. And then
Okay.
we go as high as 10 milligrams in 12-ounce cans. Um, People's preferences vary, people's tolerances vary. So we've tried to offer sort of the broadest range we can. The increments go 2.5, 3, 5, and 10 milligram. Um, there's also state nuances. Like in Connecticut, the most we can do is 3 milligram. The majority of the demand in Connecticut is at that cap. So while we had our 2.5 milligrams, we created a 3 for that market just to be right sort of at the top, and that's proven to be a really good choice. And then with respect to formats, there's places that sell single cans. We offer 4 packs, 6 packs, and 12-pack variety packs of all of our products. So when you're in a store and you're walking the aisles and you see High Noon or White Claw, you see Wynk, offered in pretty similar form factors and package options, and increasingly a price point that's pretty adjacent to the alcoholic alternatives.
And we're like all across all states, what's your best selling milligram?
It's usually a competition between 5 milligram and 10.
Yeah.
Uh, in some states, we can do 10 milligrams, but 5 milligrams still is more than 50% of our sales.
Okay.
In other states like Minnesota, 10 milligrams is the majority of our sales, despite offering everything else. So preferences really vary by market. I think it's generally true that in a market that has a cap, whether it's 3 milligrams or 5 or 10, the bulk of the sales is at that cap, and then there's a few exceptions for us where that's not true.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5. It's less than 10% of our total sales, so that really low dose is challenging. But 5 and 10 are sort of the sweet spot. We do sell online, and it's been interesting to watch the repeat customer journey. We're sort of finding that by and large, consumers that come in and start with 2.5 go up to 5. Consumers that come in and their first order is 10 milligrams, within an order or two that they're down to 5. And so it does seem to be sort of gravitating towards 5 milligram as the sweet spot for our consumers.
Oh, really? They go down to 5.
Yep.
That's amazing. Okay. That's interesting because
Not everybody, but
you
the
see.
majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's so interesting talking to like liquor store owners, different, to see where these sweet spots are landing. Yeah, it's very interesting. Oh, so as far as the 3-tier system, so you seem to really favor that, as it's is being discussed. So, I've heard some brands say that the, the distributors demand so much like, trade marketing money, all this extra money, that's going to that middleman. How do you justify that? As far as your ROI, or you just like it because you just like something that's regulated in a system that you feel like you're going to fall into, in the end, you're prepared for what it's going to probably end up.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways that I look at it. We are big advocates for the 3-tier system. I think in the like right now, the challenge for our industry is that, well, right now, one of the challenges for our industry is that each state has different rules. Those rules vary often. It almost seems like every week across our 23 markets, there's something happening in a state. And short of having like a really big compliance team, or outside counsel that's retained to keep track of this daily, it's hard for brands that try and do the right thing to stay on top of everything all the time. Having distributors in each state that have a license at risk and really need to keep an eye on it has been so helpful for us. We communicate things that we see to our distributors, and in some cases we're educating them and helping them. In a lot of cases, they're bringing back stuff to us that we may have otherwise missed. And so in the short term, or for the past couple of years, it's been so helpful to have a partner in each state that is just focused on that state and able to keep us compliant. That's 5 years from now that it may be more stable and that value goes away a bit. On the marketing and trade spend, I think in the beginning for brands, it seems really appealing to sell direct to retailers. It's a bit less competitive. It can be hard to find a distributor. Once you're in there, it can be hard to get their attention because they have so many brands. And so I do think for early stage brands, there's a good case that direct sales are helpful, but it doesn't take long to get to a scale where it just becomes financially impossible for you to adequately support your brand with retailers. And that's really always been important to us, is that anybody that's selling our product has good service. And that can be from us directly or from our distributors. So if they need an order, they know who to call, they get it quick. They're on top of it. For a single brand, unless you have your own distribution in every state, you have a lot of people available. It's hard to give the level of service they expect, and distributors are hugely helpful on the marketing side and like taking care of the retailers, making sure that they have the right merchandising, the products are placed correctly. There's a lot of benefits, and one of the benefits is in most cases with our distributors, we have an agreed split on marketing funds, so they're actually contributing to our marketing efforts and bringing down the cost. They may require or expect a certain amount of investment from brands that's challenging for some, but they know well what it takes for a brand to succeed and to move in retail. And so I think in a lot of cases, the expectations they have for marketing support for brands are helpful. Like they're trying to help you succeed so they can sell more product. And in a lot of cases, we see them as sort of mentors of sorts, custodians of our brand, helping us, make the right marketing decisions, and in a lot of cases, investing in those marketing efforts. And yeah. It's meaningful. It's like in most cases, our distributors are contributing about 50% of our spends, whether that's point of sales materials and retail fridges and things of that nature, or events in market, so sponsorships and other things. So it can be very helpful there. The last piece that's somewhat contentious, but I think in many cases helpful, is sort of franchise law and ownership of brand rights exclusivity. So with the way the market's shaped up for THC beverages is sort of resembling beer distribution, where a distributor is given exclusivity on your brand in the territory. So you can't have multiple distributors in one territory. The benefit to distributors of this is they effectively own your brand rights. And in the agreements, in order for, like, if we say, hey, we've outgrown you as a distributor, we're just too big for you to handle, we've got this sort of step up distributor in your territory we want to move to, in those agreements is a payout for the existing distributor. So your brand rights have to be bought from them, and there's value that they're accruing, and it's a function of how much they're selling. This can make it very tricky for brands because you can't just switch distributors quickly. It can be contentious and hard, but the benefit to brands is that it's a built-in incentive for the distributor to grow sales quickly. And as soon as you show traction and there's, it's clear to the distributor, like, this brand has legs and will grow, their brand rights value will grow. And in the craft beer days, for example, distributors were being paid tens of millions of dollars to sell certain brand rights. And there's a lot of money in there for the distributors. So what that means for a brand is you've got a serious carrot in your agreements with your distributors for them to grow you. What it also means is that if if you're fortunate enough to grow big enough that you need a larger distributor, and that larger distributor buys your brand rights, they're making a serious investment to take your brand, and they're only buying. They're just buying the right to sell your brand. They need to take it and succeed and pay that investment off. And so there's a bit of a flywheel that starts to spool up. So now you've got a distributor that's paid millions of dollars to get you. They need to grow it to pay that off. And that can create real momentum for brands that's helpful.
What great points that you just made, honestly. The benefits, especially for a startup brand and all the things that you said. Anyway, great. So how are you, what is a typical contract agreement? How far are you locked into? Well, do they typically say 1 year minimum, 2 year? And what is the breakup deal? Like if obviously if you don't sell enough, you can both probably say.
Yeah, it's definitely case by case negotiation, and they vary. Everybody's got to. This is, if you're a craft beer, you'd fall into a fairly boilerplate structure. If you're wine or spirits, you'd fall into a fairly boilerplate. What we're finding with THC is distributors are all thinking about it differently, and so it depends on the distributor, depends on the market. Anywhere from a sort of 5-year contract to indefinite. Many of them are pretty much de facto indefinite. And there's various terms in there. If the distributor's not performing, there's ways that you can get out. Like obviously, if they're not selling your product, you should have a right to switch to somebody else. So there's certain provisions in there to make sure that both parties are performing. But I guess the short version, the short answer to your question is that it varies a lot.
Okay.
By distributor.
Yeah. Okay. And so, and are you selling in Targets and the, I don't know, the big ones, I guess, Target, I guess.
Yeah, we've had a really exciting past 6 to 8 months. We've seen, Target expand to 400 stores with Wynk.
Oh my gosh, really?
Which is very exciting. We're very thankful to Target for taking the risk on the category and showing what good can look like for it. Been pretty successful with Sprouts in several markets. Hoping we can expand with them in the future. Circle K in a variety of different markets. Fresh Market, ABC, Binny's, a bunch of these sort of regional chains. But the velocity, the sell-through rate in liquor chain or increasingly in grocery is the growth is incredible. It works. And, in the case of Target, they started with a conservative 11 store launch just in Minnesota, just to sort of test the waters and see how it did. And it was maybe two months into that test that they started planning this 400 store expansion. So it's not hard to see the potential of this category, and you have to believe it when somebody like Target, makes these decisions. I could share my opinions all I want, but that's probably the most objective way to look at it.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, obviously I could see grocery, liquor store, but a Target, I just think of that Target consumer, but they have a big grocery section. So it's probably over there in there and all that.
Yeah. It varies by state. In the beginning in Minnesota, many of the Target stores have a dedicated alcohol section. And so it's part of the store footprint, but it's really a separate store, separate register, separate entrance.
Yeah. I think I've seen that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
And so you're sort of carved out in the adult section of the store, which I think is a good thing. And I mean, even despite it being in an unusual section of the store for the sort of beverage, the sales are there. With their expansion, I don't know that every location is a sort of carved out dedicated section or not, but the important thing to us is that people that are buying this product are, their IDs checked at checkout. and Target's doing that, which is great.
And also, I just read that Target is increasing or maybe promoting more their grocery section, like that whole part of their,
Yep.
just trying to obviously revive the whole brand in general, but they're focusing on that whole section, which is a great thing. So before you entered into these big chains, what was your, what did you need to have to come up with as far as like certifications or any other things that they requested? When you go into bigger chains, the liabilities bigger for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you have to have like GMP certified manufacturing or things like that?
Yeah. Target, I give Target a lot of credit because their due diligence was the most thorough of anybody that we've sold through. Maybe 15 pages of due diligence questions, ranging from things like CGMP facility through to ingredients, nutritional panel. It was very thorough, well thought out. The sort of the benefit for us having started in 2021 and having to get approved in all the individual states is we've been through so many different versions of regulations and requirements, stability testing, COA submission and approval. We've kind of seen, we've been drugged through the
yeah, the compliance requirements.
Yeah. And so over time, from 2021 to now, we've had to add sort of so much paperwork, and anything new that we're required to do for a certain territory, we just applied it to all of our products. And so we've built these good habits over time. And in the case of Target, we didn't have to do anything special. We just had to show more of what we already had than we'd normally be asked to for one retailer.
Okay, sorry.
So I think what chains like Target are asking of brands is completely reasonable, and everybody should have all of these things because they're fairly basic necessities for consumer safety. But the more we can get this into federal regulation or state regulation and just get everybody in the habit of doing it, so it's not an inconvenience for brands, the better.
Right. How about insurance? I know that these big chains usually require like double the insurance than what you would typically need.
Yeah, we've had to, as we onboard each of these sort of individual national chain players, they've had different requirements. We've had to sort of incrementally increase our policies. It's nothing nothing crazy.
Oh, okay.
Nothing dramatic to the business.
Okay.
Pretty reasonable, I would say. Part of the distribution agreements also have insurance provisions and requirements. So in most cases, we already met the needs of retailers through our distributors.
Okay.
But in the case of Target and a couple others, they had higher standards than our distributors.
Okay. And then how about, okay, so going on to Plan B for everyone for this pending, what do you think about going back to your days of state by state? Do you think that model that you had set up, the mobile cart, you could go back to and partner with a licensed, facility in each state and do it that way for now until, because we're just not going to probably get a big answer by November. Was that something you would consider? And if you're not considering it, do you think it's doable, especially since you've done it? Or do you think it's a good plan B for maybe another brand to do?
Well, we learned a lot selling through the dispensary channel, and the biggest and maybe most obvious learning is that there's just not many low dose consumers going through those stores. And at least at the time when we were doing it, there's not many alcohol consumers that aren't consuming high dose cannabis products that want to make a second stop. Like, okay, I'm going to go to the liquor store and get my alcohol, and I'm going to stop at this dispensary for half an hour and get my very expensive THC drinks.
Well, what about, I mean, you seem to be in favor of the lower dose, so you might fit into that, be happy with the 0.4 milligram. But if you go into dispensaries, it's more, it's a 10 sometimes.
Yeah. So we Yeah. I mean, where we landed in the dispensary channel after 3 years was we were continuing to sell our low dose products. The sell through was, you know, small but meaningful. We ended up going up to 100 milligrams with a different brand we created. That's where the demand was. 100 milligram
Like
drinks.
shots or
No, they were cans.
It's a lot.
We would never do that outside of the dispensary channel,
Yeah.
but that's where, I think there's potential for it to continue working in dispensaries with high dose products. Part of the reason is that the consumer for those products is there. Part of the reason is there's the retail price at that dosage, can be justified to be high enough to cover the massively increased costs of producing through that channel. But for Wynk and what we're really trying to, the category we're trying to build, I don't think it works. But partially the demand issue I mentioned. There's also a whole wide variety of distribution problems. It ranges from, many of the licensed state cannabis processors, their facilities weren't designed for big bulky beverages. They were designed for pre-rolls and gummies and flour and that sort of thing, where they can put months of inventory in a closet effectively. Beverage is just so big. It's not easy for a processor to just add space because they have to go through the whole process of updating their license and their facility plans and all that stuff. And so you're sort of inventory constrained at the processor level, just physically can't fit enough stuff in their facilities to supply what you hope is a sort of high demand market. There's distribution problems getting it from the processor to the dispensary. The vehicles, our products are delivered on box trucks today with cases of alcohol. When we were selling through dispensaries, not exaggerating, there are people making deliveries in sedans where you can fit
I know
a few cases. So you're sort of distribution constrained there. And then at the dispensary level, it's also challenging. And it varies state by state, but in a lot of cases, the products need to be in vaults overnight. And so you then have this issue of you have to lug these cases of product in and out of the vault every day. In some cases, you can't have live product even out. So consumers are coming and looking at a dummy can or a menu. And it just makes it's just hard. There's not much space in the dispensaries. It's not like they can store, they couldn't support high volume.
They're not even into it.
Yeah. And you have all these issues. And meanwhile, a simple pre-roll or distillate pen, these things take up no space. They're super high margin. They're very efficient to produce and distribute through those models. And so beverage kind of ends up thrown to the wayside. So this is the reason that we're advocating so hard for allowing these low dose beverages to be sold through the alcohol channel, because there's not really another viable, responsible channel for them to be sold. And consumers clearly want these products. And so we're just trying to find a responsible way to do that. And we feel pretty strongly alcohol's figured out how to do this right. And we should just follow their model.
Yeah. So I guess maybe what you're kind of saying is low dose should stay in the mainstream, and high dose consumers, you can go to a dispensary where you're comfortable with anyway. I guess that's kind of the mindset.
Yeah.
And thinking about it.
It's partially consumers are going into dispensaries sort of knowing what they're purchasing. People going into a liquor store, they might say, hey, I don't know what these drinks are. I want to try them. I've heard about them. And if they accidentally grab 100 milligram cans off the shelf at a liquor store, which is very easy to do, if you don't know how dosages work, it's a scary experience for many. Likely they won't return to the shelf. Likely they'll complain. That shouldn't occur. In the dispensary, you have educated staff at the register. They know everything about cannabis. They're trained.
Yeah.
You can get all the information you want in the store. And if you're going into a dispensary, you're at least aware that you're getting a THC product, and it's likely to be strong. So I think it's the right thing for consumers. Over time, this could change. And in the case of alcohol, people kind of understand what's safe, what's dangerous, what's right for them. Vodka's strong. If you've never had alcohol before, probably don't drink a glass of vodka. these things become commonplace, but it takes time. And until such time passes, I think we need to be really careful
Good
what
point.
what we allow consumers to
Right.
get their hands on at different locations.
Right. Very, very good points. So I guess the answer is you're just going to reduce your milligrams down to the maximum for, 0.4 milligram if this all goes through, and just kind of ride that and continue what you're doing, basically. Is that the
Yeah, we're very optimistic that we'll get legislation passed one way or another before November. That's plan A.
Oh, okay. Well, why do what how do you base that? Or how are you thinking about that? What do you mean will get that? Oh, you mean that we will, that they won't ban it? Well, wait, if they ban it completely, it's still banned, but with a 0.4 milligram. That's the ban.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you hoping for? That it just will be delayed, or what?
Yeah, I mean, our hope is that proper legislation passes that creates a long-term framework for the industry, everything from farmers through to beverages. And while an extension is obviously better than a ban for us, what we really want to see is actual rules, a level playing field. Everybody's playing by the same rules. That's the best outcome. And we expect, and we're supportive of this legislation being extremely limiting. That's okay. Like, there should be limitations on marketing. There should be requirements that these products are sold in age-gated retail. There should probably be caps that, at least in the beginning, are fairly restrictive. Dosage caps that, at least in the beginning, are fairly restrictive. Like, we're okay with strict regulation that's, at least for now, limiting. I think it's okay, with a pathway to expanding products out as there's more research done and consumers are more aware of these products. That's what we really want. There's a lot of bills coming out right now from various members of Congress. They're different. They're all sort of different in nature and what they're trying to do, but I think they're all good examples of, like, there are ways to regulate this responsibly. There's ways to do it that fall into different agencies' sort of normal course, normal sets of responsibilities. In the case of beverages with the TTB, it actually does fall quite well into the TTB's existing framework for alcohol. And some of these bills being proposed lay it out pretty clearly. Like, this is a practical way to fold these products into these existing structures. And so I think what I'm hopeful for is that, as more of these bills are introduced with co-sponsors, bipartisan support, companion bills, either in the House or in the Senate, just more and more examples to show, like, while we may not be able to get a full package passed before November, we need a little bit of time. And so a short extension is merited. It's not to continue the status quo and continue to allow these crazy products to exist in places they shouldn't. It's just to give time, not kill everybody in the industry that's worked so hard to show what good can look like, but do it by pointing out legislation that can work. And I think there's a lot of good work being done. There's a lot of good examples out there. Andy Barr and Angie Craig just introduced a bill today that provides a pretty compelling framework. And so I'm hopeful before November there's either legislation or an extension that is tied to legislation, to just giving a little bit of a runway to get rules in place.
Yeah.
What we absolutely don't want is no rules. Like, there's a lot of people that think this shouldn't be regulated. I don't agree with that. It needs to be, it's got to be fair. It's got to be fair to players within the industry, but also has to be fair to the alternatives. Like, you can't have THC beverages with no rules sold in the same store as alcohol that's really restricted. It's not fair to alcohol. And in a lot of cases, it's not fair to the consumer because they're,
no,
we need rules.
Yeah, we need rules. Yeah. I also we also keep hearing chatter about descheduling lately. I'm like, what? That would be amazing. I just keep seeing that popping up. I haven't gone down to see where that really is, but I guess it's the new bill, the Schumer bill.
Hmm.
And Wyden, as they're saying, deschedule. It's in that bill, yeah. But anyway, I'm glad to hear Andy Barr put that out today. I kind of saw that too. I didn't read what that was, if that was an update on that. So, but anyway, so I guess the last question is how are you thinking about payment processing, with the ban? Because now it's going to throw you, I guess it throws you into kind of where the legal or where the regulated market is, and what I guess that's where you would have to go, right? Whatever they're doing.
Yeah, beyond the ban, if you were to continue to sell products over zero point 0.4 milligrams,
Oh,
subject to you'd be subject to banking challenges, insurance challenges. And so an example is like many say, well, if there's a federal ban, states can continue to allow it like they do marijuana products today, but still be difficult for businesses to get traditional insurance, difficult to do normal payment processing, all of those things will be a challenge. If you're under 0.4 milligrams, you're not a
oh, right. Okay, then you're
yeah.
fine. Yeah. Okay. All right, great. And then, okay, I'm sorry, one really last question. What about online sales? Do you have more online sales than retail? Your retail is stronger?
Yeah, our retail sales as a percentage of total against D2C just increases each month. We're over 70% of our revenue is coming from retail sales.
Okay.
The remainder primarily D2C. I think long term D2C shrinks to maybe sub 10% of the total business. When you talk to mainstream beverage brands outside of THC, in a lot of cases, they kind of look at direct to consumer sales online as almost a marketing tool. It's not really a profit center, or it's not a meaningful revenue center. For beverage, it's typically not that a very valuable portion of your business. Like if you're going for acquisition, it's not
too
where the
heavy. It's too heavy, right?
it's in it.
Shipping.
It's inefficient. Yeah,
Okay.
it's inefficient, but it's very helpful in the early stages. In the first year, it was probably 70% of our business.
Right. Because I've heard
Um,
some people say that, right, if they're not in retail, they're kind of focusing on that, I guess.
yeah, it's a good way to get the word out on your brand. Um, but the the money's in your retail sales at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the more we see D2C shrinking as a percentage of our total business, to me, that's a success. And that's kudos to our sales team for growing the wholesale side.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful.